Hey everybody. Okay, it's Lex Marie here again. All right, so I went ahead and just asked some people what would be good topics to talk about if there was any questions that you guys had, and this is based off of my experience. I'm not saying that what anybody else says is wrong. This is just what I've received. This is my visions, my this, my that. So that's what these answers are going to be based upon. So I don't knock what anybody else says about the afterlife, whatever any other psychic has said. I respect anybody, but this is my take on it. So I'm not gonna say, like, if it was a username on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or whatever, I'm not gonna say their full name or username. I'm just gonna say the first name. So Stephanie asks, what does it feel like when you connect with spirit? What happens if you're interrupted during a reading? Does the connection just stop? So when I connect with spirit, usually, and some people do it differently, but it's very easy for me to do so. And this has happened, I've been doing this for a lot of years. So it just depends on the spirit's state of the way that they are. If their heart is open, it depends on if the person that I'm speaking to and having this psychic session with, if they're open. But when I do YouTube readings, it's kind of like I'm talking with no one on the other end to tell me, like, yeah, oh yeah, that makes sense. Let's go deeper into that, So whenever I'm doing a reading on YouTube, it just depends on the spirit, really, and how much they want to say. When I have a psychic session, then it depends on the other person as well and the spirit. If they want to connect, sometimes they don't want to connect at that time. Sometimes it just, it really just depends. But what it feels like when I connect with spirit is I have to make sure that my state of mind is in the right place, that I am nice and calm. I've meditated, I've cleansed myself, I've done things. I do a process beforehand just to make sure that I'm okay. I make sure that there is nothing but love and light in this session and is only for healing and growth. So there's nothing that's going to be, there's nothing that's going to be like dark or, and it may be, depending on the session, that something needs to come out for healing because maybe the spirit needed to get it off of their chest to let the other person know, or to validate that, we are in the same room here because only they knew about that, or something like that would come up. But usually I know I connect with the spirit, and especially the one that's passed, if I get like chills at first. It's not like, it gets goosebumps and it like goes away. So I know that they're in the room. It's nothing scary. It doesn't feel scary to me. And it's so funny. I was just talking about this, that I will go to like haunted houses, and I'm freaking terrified of haunted houses. Like, no, I'm not going to have anybody screaming in my face and touching me. I will cry or pass out, which I have done before. But if I talk to an actual spirit, a real spirit, I'm not scared at all. And it is a feeling of bliss. I'm very comfortable with death. So, it's a blissful feeling. And especially after the session that I have with people, I feel like they've healed, and it helps me heal too. If I'm interrupted by a reading, I usually would just say, to whoever the spirit I'm speaking to, just give me a moment, or I'll get back to you and we can finish where we left off. Just talking to them like they're still here, which they are. So just, being having manners and being like, okay, well, I have something going on, let me just stop the session, or, whatever the case. Does the connection just stop? Sometimes yes. And sometimes even during a session, I will feel that the spirit doesn't want to speak anymore, or there's nothing more to say at the time, so I will do it later. But as for the connection stopping, it's really up to me or the spirit. So it's like having a real conversation with, an actual human being, because they were, and they're still spirits, and they're still very much here. So Tina asked, what was your first vision? Was it something you needed an answer to? Well, when I was a child, I don't know if you've seen the prior videos, but I used to draw, and whenever I would draw, I actually would draw my future, places that I would work at or whatever, and I had no idea until later. I was thinking about it, now, very recently, and I was just like, wow, everything that I drew was, things that actually happened to me when I was, now. So that was something that was like a big thing for me. Whenever it started getting out of control, and I remember this very vividly, and I had also spoke about it in another video, but whenever I was in my teenage years and I was kind of out of control, I didn't really know how to hold my emotions and things like that. I was at the store, and I would talk about when I was at the store, and I would leave crying because I would get like people's energies and stuff like that of what was going on with them. This woman had walked past me, and she kind of had her head down, but not really. I didn't even really see her face. I don't even remember. I just know she walked past me and like one of her parents died. I just know that. And I just looked and I just stopped and I was like, it felt like somebody just hit me in the chest. And I was just like, oh my God. And I couldn't say anything to her, because at that time I wasn't even reading anybody or doing it professionally yet. So I was just like, man, I wish there was something I could do. I just don't know how to do it. And that was when, I started to realize that things were getting out of control for me. And that's whenever, shortly after that, I had contacted another older psychic woman who taught me how to do things and really realized that I was a psychic and getting very accurate information. Karen asks, when did you realize you had a gift and how long did it take for you to accept it? So, little things have happened to me in my childhood that made me think that I was like more, but then I was like, no, like talking to animals I could do as a child. Drawing my future out I could do as a child. Feeling the spirits that were around me. There was actually more spirits around me then than there are now. And I think it's because I control it better. And I didn't know back then. But there were spirits around me and I was constantly kind of scared, but not really. And the fact that I wasn't scared, I think really opened that door for me to be able to do this more. How long did it take for me to accept it? I would say the moment I knew for a fact I could receive messages, it all made sense to me and I accepted it from the beginning, but I really understood and appreciated it at that time. If I didn't accept it back then, I think I wouldn't have been able to do what I do now. But because I applied myself to it and then finally found out that I was a psychic, I was able to appreciate it at that point and really be able to control it was a big thing. If I wasn't able to control it, I think I would not be doing this because it would really spiral out of control and it really messes up with just your psyche in general and not knowing, what is what. It's very confusing. So, but I accepted it a long time ago. I let it in a long time ago and opened my heart to it when I was a child. And so then now, when I grew up and realized what was happening, I accepted it and appreciated it. I will say Aliva, she wanted to ask I'm sorry if I said that wrong. How do you know a loved one is okay? Apparently it's hard for her to feel her past loved one, making her feel like her loved one is not at peace. How do you know a loved one is okay? Well, I usually have sessions with people that want to know more info on what's happening. But how do you know a loved one is okay? If you know on this earth the person that they were, they're okay. If you're questioning, okay, maybe they did some bad things, I'm not sure what state they're in. Was there anything that they didn't get to do that maybe there's, haven't crossed over or something like that? That would be something that we would do a psychic session for, and that I would kind of figure out what state the spirit is in. For the most part, spirits are very smart and they know how to transition and they will do so. If not, they will just kind of hang out close, but not too close, and kind of wait for the people that they love the most to cross over with them. But the feeling of death is blissful. Is your loved one not at peace? And if you really feel like your loved one is not at peace, and that's something that we need to do a psychic session for, because since I do help people cross over, if they haven't, then we need to figure that out. But for the most part, do something. There's a lot of things that the person that has passed maybe like to do, like planting or like gardening, have plants, or cooking, or act like they're still here. Make those meals that they liked. Have a picture of them out, and I always tell people that, have a picture of them out, acknowledge them, so every day you can walk past them, and every day it'll be easier. Not to say it will ever get easier, but it won't hurt you as bad walking past them and seeing their picture every day. It's like you have to train your brain to realize that they're still here, and they still love you the same, you still love them the same. They're not lost, they're not going anywhere, and they're very much still here with you. So have that picture out. Do the things that they love to do. It's like a memorial, for them. Something to remind yourself and to remind them that they're still appreciated and respected on the other side. This is for Lynn. Any advice for people barely understanding their gift? So if you're trying to understand your gift, what I would say is a lot of meditation, a lot of visual meditation. And the first thing you need to do is, and we can go deeper into that. Usually I do psychic sessions for this, but you really need to get to a place where in your mind you can take everything, all the external things away and just focus on nothing. And so that way you can receive your messages. That's the most important part, because if you have, a grocery list coming in, if you have, your problems coming in your mind when you're trying to read, it's gonna feel overwhelming. So meditate. I would say ground yourself. Start with your root chakra and start doing things that help ground you. You can, go outside and meditate, do things like that. Get to a point where you can clear your head completely. Once you get to that point, then you can start doing visualization techniques, and you can start visualizing, like with your eyes closed, start visualizing things. Hold even, like I have a, little hair tie. Close your eyes and keep on thinking about this hair tie until you can see every little ridge in the tie, until it looks real to you behind your mind's eye. That's after you that's after you do the meditation of clearing your head and mastering that and getting to the point where you're comfortable with that. Then you can start doing the visualization techniques, and both of those together will help you receive messages very clearly. And we can also, I also do sessions on that to go deeper into it, but that's the gist of it. And really just knowing yourself, knowing who you are, what you are, taking control of your emotions, taking control of things about you, knowing you the best before anybody else does. And like they say, you really can't help anybody until you help yourself. So really keep that in mind. So Zahaya asked, what is the afterlife like? Does it affect someone in their afterlife? Oh, does it affect someone in the afterlife as far as suicide? Now, as far as that's concerned, I haven't felt that a spirit that had committed suicide is like hurting or anything like that. I do feel like there was regret more so whenever I had spoke to a spirit that had committed suicide, but I was able to speak to them clearly. As far as where they are, I don't know, because I speak to them directly. I don't really ask them where they are. I don't go too much into detail. I kind of, speak to them like they're still real people. And I wouldn't want to, like, if someone was depressed or anything, I wouldn't want to poke and prick at them if they were still alive, if that makes sense. So why would I do that while they're a spirit? But I do know that they're able to speak, and I didn't feel like they're in any pain. And they're able to speak with a clear head. And actually, usually spirits that cross over, regardless of how they pass, they have so much more clarity. And they're so much more clear on who they are, on what happened in their lives, on the way that they were. If they were a very closed off, unemotional person, then it kind of like their heart is on their sleeve. And that's with a lot of spirits. So as far as suicide goes, for the most part, yes, they do regret doing that. Is there a reason a family member will not speak to you in a dream? Yes. From my experience, sometimes family members that are in a dream, it depends. If they're talking to you, if they're saying things that are important to you, it may really be them. Sometimes they're in a dream to help you cope. Sometimes they're in a dream and they don't want to speak. They just kind of want to be there. It really just depends on the spirit. And I've heard, there's little superstitions of if you have a dream and it's someone that's passed, don't touch them. It's really not, I haven't seen anything that I've went through as far as my dreams are concerned and helping people cross over and things like that have ever messed with me if I've touched them. No. But, that's from my experience. But just keep in mind, have like a journal out and see. And, you can even meditate on the spirit before you go to bed and be like, I want you to visit me whenever you can and see what happens. Keep your heart open to speaking to them, and keep in mind that it is their spirit, so it's when they're ready to say things as well. Christina, I felt my mother leave my body and had a dream of the same scenario, but from a different perspective. Her mother's spirit hugged her after she passed, while her body was still on the hospital bed, is what I'm getting. So basically, her mother had passed on this bed, and she, was with her during her last breaths, and it's like she felt her mother's spirit leave her body. Well, she had a dream a few days later, She was in the same scenario, hugging her mom while she was passing, but her mother's spirit was behind her hugging her. Yes, that is a true dream. That was not fake. She asked if it was something to help cope. It could be both. It could help you cope to understand what was going on and knowing that your mother was still there. But yes, that dream was real. It does happen that way. A lot of the time, spirit doesn't know at first that they've even passed. And I've had a scenario like that as well. I had a story with that where a family member of mine used to see spirits, and I had someone very close to me that had passed, and they actually came to visit me while I was sleeping, and the other person was next to me, and they seen that spirit look at me very confusing, like wondering why I was kind of like crying, you know, and upset. So they weren't sure, they weren't aware that they had passed yet, and really were kind of confused as to what was going on. But they were able to go to each family member or people that they cared about in that spirit. And that was, you know, the day of passing or a few days after that. So it really just depends on the person. And that person that I had, that had passed, they weren't ready to go at first because they were, you know, it was me. I was keeping them back. And this was before I did all this stuff. I was in so much grief that they didn't want to leave. And so I had a dream, and I helped them cross over because I had to let them go. So sometimes they will stay because the other person is grieving so bad that they feel like it's wrong for them to go. So we have to make them know that it's okay. And even, you know, and you don't have to contact me to do a session to do so. Talk out loud, they're very much still there. Call their name out, their full name, and tell them that it's okay for them to go, that you are not going to hold them back if you still feel like they're here for some reason. So Manny asked, guardian angels, said my father and someone else visited me to give me good advice, just some insight on guardian angels. So guardian angels or spirit guides can be anybody that's passed that you love. It doesn't even have to be family, but like there's maybe even neighbors or somebody that was a family friend or somebody that really cared about you. They will be a spirit guide, because if they were still alive, is that somebody that you could go to for help or for advice, or if they had anything to say, they would be there for you, yes. So in the afterlife, they're still going to remain that for you. And spirits are able to manipulate energies and able to fix things for you. So let that in and let them help you, and realize that they're very much still here. Believe that they are very much still here, because they are. And especially if they come to you in a dream and have something to say, if it's insightful, understand it and believe it and accept it. Respect the fact that they're coming to you, you know, because it does drain energy of spirits. And, you know, me, like if I do psychic sessions, it still drains me. You know, I do things, of course, to make sure I'm okay, but it does drain the spirit to do so in a certain manner, and to a certain extent. But if they go to you in a dream, you know, they're trying to get that message across, and just accept it and appreciate it. So Chrissy asked the crossover process. As far as the crossover process goes, it's more of, you know, the circumstances of how they passed, the circumstances of what they went through before they passed. It's a lot of different things that kind of can manipulate the crossover process for people. What I do know is the feeling of death, of dying, is very peaceful. It feels like I mean, I can't even I can't explain it. It just feels, if you were to think about the best peace and the most cleanseful, just sigh of relief, weight off your shoulders of life, is what death is. Now, whenever people die and, you know, like committing suicide, bad circumstances, sometimes it's not that way because they don't realize that they realize that they're dying, but they're in a state of shock of just whatever happened. And so it can make them really confused until they understand that they have passed. Like a video that I had of the little boy that I helped cross over, he, you know, died in a traumatic way. And so he was confused. So it really just depends. But for the most part, whenever they do pass, it's blissful. Some of them stay because of maybe family members or regrets that they have to get out or feel like they have to change. They may stay in the same area, or their energy may be energy may be placed in something that they love dearly, like an object. But they do things on their own time. And there is a space in between, and from my experience, there is a space, like a plane. It's our plane, then there's that little space in between where like spirits hang out at, and then there's the bliss. And I've been in a dream numerous times where I, you know, here I was sleeping, and then I went into this plane. And it's not comfortable for a spirit because, you know, a lot of the times their family members are there, but they don't have souls. It's just something to help them cope. But then they realize, I don't really want to be here anymore because, you know, it's my family member, but they don't even have a spirit. So it kind of, you know, messes with them, and they kind of get to the point where, okay, I want to pass now, or they feel like they've done enough. There's psychic readings that I've had that they did not cross over yet because of a person that was grieving for them so bad, and so I was able to relay that message to them, and then they're able to be like, okay, I can move on now, you know. So that would be something, if you feel like, you know, you need to contact somebody to help them cross over to see if they have, or whatever the case, then we can do that. But yeah, guys, those are really good questions. If there's anything else that you want to know about into more detail, just let me know, and we'll go from there. But like I said, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Everything is pretty much just my experiences. And like I said, I'm only 27, so, you know, I have a lot of life to live, but I've also experienced a lot and know a lot. And there's also, you know, there's some things that I know that I don't really want to say. I've seen a lot of things. But just know that my sessions are for healing and growth, and you will not feel sad after our sessions. You will feel very liberated and a little bit more clarity on a lot of things. So, but yeah, just go ahead and if you want to book, make sure you have your invoice ready. And I have a sale all month of October for 20% off of all my readings, and you can just email me at LexxMarieIntuitiveHealing@gmail.com. And you can add my Facebook, Lexx Marie Intuitive Healing. My Instagram is Lexx Intuitive Healing, I believe, and my YouTube, obviously. So everything's going to be in the description, so just go from there. I love you guys. Thank you for all the questions. Y'all are awesome, and I hope that you give me some more, and I can't wait to hear from y'all because I love you, and love you. That's it. Bye.